Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's edition of the UBV Presents the Black Notes. I'm Leon Mallet with my two organizers in arms, Mr. Ivory Hodges and Mr. Matt Clayton. Today's notes, we are going to be discussing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a word is commonly referred to as the CFPB. The CFPB is a federal government agency that was formed in 2010 from the Dodd-Frank Act. That was legislation that was put in from a proposal from Senator Christopher Dodd of Connecticut and Representative Bernie Frank of Massachusetts, ultimately in response to the financial crash that hit the United States economy in the 2007-2008 timeframe. The act ultimately targeted the financial system sectors that were the cause of the financial crash due to a lax in regulations and risky lending practices. Ultimately, this led to an overhaul of the banking, mortgage, and housing and insurance industries in the country. Recently, there has been many changes made to the agency, and has been talks that the current administration may actually get rid of the whole agency altogether, which many say will revert us back to one of the most devastating times in our country. And ultimately, we'll just start off by asking my two brothers first off, what is your guys' thoughts on the CFPB just as an agency overall?
Man, I go. So yeah, I ain't like to hear that noise. I mean, I feel like it was the CFPB is very important. To your point, Leon, I just think it's one of the most important consumer protections that we have. And again, whenever you hear regulation, because you hear that word all the time, it's like, oh, it's just too much regulation, man. It's too much regulation. That equals consumer protection. And so, what type of protection are I talking about? They actually capped um, overdraft fees. I don't know if people know that, but banks were charging a lot more for overdraft fees. But with the CFPB, what they did was they capped that. And also they capped the interest rates for credit card companies that they could charge. I'm sorry, not interest rates, but late fees. Late fees that credit card companies charge, they were capped. The medical debt that was reported, sometimes people wouldn't be able to get loans for homes because they had medical debt reported on their credit report, but the CFPB was instrumental in making sure that that was like capped at a certain amount and it couldn't show up on your credit report, and that would prevent you from getting a home. They also, you can file complaints. So if you had a complaint with, let's say, Wells Fargo, which screwed a lot of people over, and I'm no fan of Wells Fargo, but I'm just saying they screwed a lot of people over. Who do you go to say, hey, I got a complaint with Wells Fargo? I mean, this big company. Who can you say, hey, I have an issue with them? And this, their job was to protect us and give us those consumer protections. And when you talk about stripping that away, then you have to think, okay, who benefits from that? It's not the consumer. Who benefits from that? So that's my thing with that.
Yeah, I think to keep it simple, in terms of like how does this impact somebody's life? So if you ever been to Best Buy, you go buy a TV, whatever like that, you get the PS3, get you some AirPods, you feeling good about yourself. You go and you buy the warranty. You know what I'm saying? That warranty protection. You say, you know what, you do $49 for 3 years. You say, man, I'm spending $500 on this TV. Okay, cool. You buy the warranty. You know what I'm saying? For example, the CFPB would be like, hey, you know what? You pay for that warranty. You have the opportunity to have the warranty. You get the warranty. You take the TV back. It's a dud. You get your money back. Now, what happens without the CFPB? You go down there. They may still sell you the warranty, but they know damn well they're not going to actually enforce it. TV mess up, and you look into the fine print. They're like, hold up, dog. That's not a warranty. It's a warning. You know what I'm saying? And you and you lost your money. That's what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? Essentially, costs and fees are gonna go up and the protections are gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the best analogy. It's almost like instead of having a warranty, you're gonna get a warning. And that's a sucky feeling. That's a sucky feeling.
Yeah, for sure. The CFPB has been, very instrumental, particularly in my real estate career. Starting off as a loan officer, the CFPB put in a lot of rules shortly before I became into the mortgage end, and one of those most critical things was putting in caps in terms of adjustable rate mortgages, or what are known as ARMs. And what it did was it limited from the amount that the rate can go up on the first year, and then the life of the loan as well, a maximum cap rate, because that was one of the big things that happened in the late 2000s where people were in adjustable rate mortgages and they were going up, 15, 20%. And that payment shock was just too much for people to handle.
Yeah.
And the CFPB put in those type of guidelines to make sure that the consumer was protected moving forward. And I think it's definitely a viable organization that needs to uh, stick around for the health and well-being of our people. Ultimately, at the end of the day, throughout the country. So now, speaking in regards to housing, I hate to kind of go back to that, but you guys know that's my forte.
Yeah.
Just comparing into 2010 when ultimately the CFPB started, foreclosures were at 2.3%. Last year in 2024, they were at 0.23%. Ultimately, that's a 2% decline. Now, people say 2% is not a lot, but you got to understand that 2.3% back in 2010 was 2.9 million foreclosures, whereas 0.23% last year is 323,000. That's a big difference. And that difference comes from direct correlation of when the CFPB started until now. So obviously, like I said, on my background's in real estate. You guys have different backgrounds as far as your careers. But just from you guys and what you've seen from the CFPB since they've been around, how do you feel it's affected the economy, markets, as well as just the Black community in the U.S. just overall to you guys?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So
Yeah.
I look at it as a practitioner, as a financial coach. I've been a financial coach for over 10 years, and I really help clients on the ground level. So I know what's going on with people's individual budgets. But we're talking about protections. We're talking about consumer protections. We're talking about the big job of anywhere from mortgages, credit cards, protecting people from payday loans, banks, like predatory banks and institutions that's geared towards really siphoning your money off through fees and junk fees, all kinds of stuff that's going on that you don't even really realize. And when you talk about, again, I just can't I keep going back to just people saying being okay with their being okay with this, just losing their then what am I trying to say?
Protections.
Yeah, protections. I just don't understand how people can just be okay with that. Just to be like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. Like a lot of people rationalizing this, but to me, it's almost like when you think about the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, when you talk about cutting and gutting that agency, and then you had the big spill that we had maybe 10 years ago, and then people say, okay, why didn't we have this in place? Because everybody want to blame you, but nobody want to say, hey, you know what? We have these protections in place already. So I guess for me, like I just think it's going to be devastating for a lot of people. They're already talking about raising overdraft fees already again, raising credit card interest rates all over again. So all the protections, to me, it just translates that hey, people vote against their best interests, and they don't really realize what they're voting for. They're just always voting against something, and I think that's something that needs to change.
Yeah, I'll put it like this. If this was a basketball use a basketball analogy. If it was a basketball play, you had to, it'd be the cut and gut. You know what I'm saying? Kind of similar to the, go left, fake left, go right. Like, when you fake left, it's whatever, but it's that going right that really gets you. And I think that's what it is. It's not so much the cutting of the CFPB, like cutting, that's not the biggest issue. It's what you're cutting it for, how you gonna gut. And I think this time around, you may see, protections, like consumers get attacked in ways that we didn't even anticipate, right? Because I think obviously I think this is just that's the front line defense. That's the front line defense, right? And the argument is like easily going to be like, hey, it duplicates a lot of the different things that other agencies can do, right? The Department of Justice like should be doing something, blah blah blah. But really, what it is that it's the cut and gut. Meaning that it's just cutting down the first line of defense. And they're going to keep cutting down each line of defense until you really have no protections. It's going to be to the point where if you call your bank and you say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna call a complaint. You're gonna call a number and you're gonna complain. It's gonna be the same goddamn bank you just called who put the fees on you. You know what I'm saying? That it's just a
Nothing you can
bad.
do.
It's nothing you could do. It's nothing you could do, man. It's nothing you could do, man. So I think that's what kind of comes to my mind. And I say the biggest
Hey,
thing.
Matt, they gonna say who you gonna call? Like,
Who you gonna call? Who you gonna
Yeah.
call?
who you
Who
gonna
you gonna
call?
call? They
Uh,
gonna be laughing.
You
They
ain't
gonna
got
be
no
laughing.
protections,
Hey,
right?
they gonna be laughing at you. They not even gonna put
They,
it on mute. Hey, this fool thought he was gonna report us.
right, right. Hey, you know,
You
like
dumbass.
that abusive
Hey,
spouse, they be like, where you gonna go? Huh? Where you gonna go? You
hey,
gonna leave me? Where you going?
hey,
Where
they
you
gonna
go?
be
Where you
rude.
gonna go?
They gonna be rude as hell, dumbass. I know you live at 555 Apple Street, man. If you call back one more time, I'm gonna smack the shit out of you. Don't call back no more. Like,
Yeah,
damn, man.
oh man.
They gonna be empowered, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. At the end of the day, I mean, the name in itself says what it is: consumer financial protection. And like you said, sometimes people are cutting off the nose to spite their face, but there's a lot of situations where a government, I feel they need to cut back. Um, you know, as far as from my personal perspective, but this is definitely not one of those situations. This agency is too important um, to America. I mean, America 2007, 2008, if anybody knows about that, which everybody should who was alive back then, um, was the deepest and darkest times potentially in one of them as far as the history of this country. And the CFPB is just way too important for us to not only gut it, but possibly get eliminated altogether. I just think that just is not something that can happen. So, but we definitely want to hear your thoughts. So if you guys can, please make sure you comment below to give your feedback on the thoughts of the CFPB and it possibly being disbanded. Go ahead and leave your comments below as far as what your feelings are regarding that. We'd like to thank you for taking the time out to watch our video today. Just please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms to get real-time updates on our progression as we build toward the midterms in the 2028 presidential election. Also, please don't forget to take the survey so we can continue to work on putting together the Black Agenda 2028. This is an agenda of issues that are ultimately affecting the Black community and us as Black Americans and in the United States. And ultimately, what we want to do is take these to local and federal politicians to let them know that our vote is valuable and we understand that, and we are going to hold them accountable to make sure that they address the issues that we have within our community. You can take the survey at www.blackagenda2028.com. Go ahead, take the quick 2-minute survey, voice ultimately what matters to you, and help us put together this agenda that we're going to present to politicians on your behalf to make sure that community gets put in the light that it deserves to be. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts today and everybody for joining us. We are BA28, and we are out.
Take care, everybody.